It's winter time. Let's talk about chains. One of the best ways is to get organized. I like to lay the chains out next to the wheel just to make sure you don't have any twists in there. That'll mess you up. And if you'll notice on this set of chains, the hook and the loop for the inside connection are spray painted in orange. That's going to be standard on all of our chain sets in the near future. This particular chain set, the round loops don't have sharp edges, so that's not something you need to worry about against the rubber of the tire. However, I do know for a fact that the chain sets in Snowmass have a hook, so when you're setting this up, make sure that the sharper edges of that hook that's connecting these pieces of chain are facing out and not against the wheel. Okay, so first step with these are chalking the engine. So we're gonna throw this chalk, and these are available to you at each station. You're gonna throw it under the inside dual because you want to have some space between that outside tire and the ground to get your chain around it easily. So that chalk is set. And then we're gonna have Ben drive the engine forward until it's up on the chalk. Okay, so now we have the engine driven up onto the chalk, and you see you have a lot of room underneath the wheel to work with. When you're doing this in real life, you're gonna place both chocks, so your rear end tires, so you can have people on both sides applying these chains. The next step is gonna be to take your chain and position it over the wheel. And you kind of want to position it in a way that gives you clear access to making that connection at the back easier. That's fine. Where you can visualize both the hook and the loop. So I'm gonna come around. If you take a little extra time to pull that slack, it'll be a lot easier to hook it once you're ready. So you can see here I've got the orange loop, and the hook is about 2 inches away, and you can't see what I'm doing, but I can feel it. So see, the orange hook and loop are connected. That's often done by feel. So grab the hook, grab the loop. Okay, so we have the chain set in the back. That's the hardest connection to connect. This part is relatively a little easier. So again, you're gonna look for your connections there. So this will always have the ability to give or take slack. So you're gonna go through this, one of these chain rings here. You might have to figure that out a couple times, but you want it pretty taut. Loose chains can cause damage. So this arm kind of goes through one of those chain links, and then you see this guy hanging out here. That's kind of your lock in place. That seems pretty tight, but let's see if we can get another one just to be safe, because as you drive these, they'll also loosen. So let's try one more, and it should be somewhat challenging to get these connected. Can test it. That seems pretty good to me. So we'll lock that in place there. And then this guy just comes back. That's just kind of like added protection there to keep it connected were something catastrophic to happen. So now we're gonna put what people commonly refer to the octopus on. And you just kind of want to space it evenly. It's like tightening lug nuts, as even as you can. All right, and Ben's gonna drive the engine forward and back, and that kind of helps seat the chain. And if there's slack created from those movements, then we can tighten it again on those individual chain links. So you'll notice Ben only drove forward and back about 20 feet, and you can see the slack that's in that chain. So this is where you'd want to remove the octopus and take this arm and choke it up a couple links to make it tight so that you're safe when you're on the highway. Okay, let's talk about de-chaining. You might find yourself with the need to do this quickly. So let's talk about efficiency. Per the new SOG, using critical thought and paying attention to changing road conditions is going to be your clue to de-chain these apparatus. Or if you're responding to an incident that requires highway speed travel on 82, that's another reason to de-chain these rigs. So let's look at how this chain is set up. If you see right here, this arm is the opposite side of the wheel than when we put it on. And if you remember when you put it on, if it's kind of here at the tire, it allows you that space to peek around in between the duals. So what I'm going to do to make this easier on myself is I'm going to have my engineer pull the vehicle forward until this arm is here, because we know that this is parallel with the hook and loop closure on the back of the chain. Okay, so we had our engineer pull forward so that this arm is kind of at this level, which is twofold because we know that the hook and loop closure on the back is parallel with this arm. And so now we know we can better visualize that connection back here, and we kind of have this room to shoulder under that truck and see that connection when you're disconnecting it. So you can do this one person or two person. And we want to think about road conditions, changing road conditions, looking at predicted weather. Maybe you are responding to an incident that requires a period of highway speed travel on Highway 82 where this isn't the best idea. So we want to be efficient de-chaining, and we'll show you how. So we're going to unhook our octopus, and we're going to disconnect our safety there, and then you're going to come and you're actually going to disconnect this arm, but you want to make sure that you either have help that's holding this for you and preventing it from slipping over the back of the tire, or if you're doing it by yourself, you can simply give yourself some slack to work with and kind of drape it on the top of the tire like that. And then you're going to be able to look back here and see that orange hook and loop closure and easily disconnect it. And then you're going to pull this whole thing up and over the wheel and just leave it there. And that will allow your engineer to continue. And that is kind of the easy way to de-chain. So we're going to just demonstrate really quickly applying the chains without a chock, because you may find yourself out in the field where chain application is necessary. It's very easy. One thing to note is that this inside line where your hook is, that is the hook and loop closure that goes behind the first dual, it's really important where that spacing is so that you're not when you're moving the engine forward or backwards to apply the chain, the inside dual isn't on top of that edge of the chain or that hook or loop. So we'll have Ben pull forward. And again, I just want to emphasize getting your arm, this outside arm, kind of on this part of the wheel and giving yourself that space underneath to make that inside connection. So I'll have him pull forward to where we're draping most of the chain over the top of the wheel. Field application is a little more challenging, so you kind of have to set yourself up for success in the beginning. Okay, so the engineer has positioned the wheel over the chains where you see like 3/4 of the chain is back here, which will allow me to actually drape it over the wheel. Just be mindful of safety and communication with your driver. Do not engage the chain over this wheel until you hear that air brake set. We just want to make sure that everybody is staying safe when we're applying these in the field. So communicate, listen for the air brake. So now what we're going to do is kind of the same process. This can be a little more tricky. This might require more than one person, and it's definitely going to require working that slack around. So Ben's going to get under there and try to get that inner connection made.
Yeah.
So if you are attempting to make that inner connection with your chain like this, it's going to be really difficult. So use the same technique for de-chaining and take this front part and just kind of drape it over the top of the wheel, and that'll give you enough slack to make that connection on the inside dual. Once these are on and you've got that connection, it's pretty easy, and the same technique to then attach your chain and attach your octopus and hopefully get yourself out of a slippery situation.